It's the afternoon of the 2nd of January 1967 in Thailand. 28 F-4C Phantoms of the US Air Force's 8th Fighter Wing, known as the Wolfpack, are taking off and form up into 7 flights of 4 aircraft each. Each flight has been assigned call signs of American automobile brands: Olds, Ford, Rambler, Lincoln, Tempest, Plymouth, and the Italian scooter brand Vespa. The first 4 Phantoms in Olds' flight briefly circle until the 3rd flight, Rambler, is in the air. The formation then turns north to follow the same ingress route that F-105 Thunderchiefs use when carrying out bombing missions against North Vietnam. However, the objective for today's mission is not to destroy enemy infrastructure. This is Operation Bolo, a carefully planned trap to destroy dangerous North Vietnamese MiG-21 interceptors. A quick word from this week's sponsor, World of Tanks, a free-to-play online combat game where you can fight in 800 tank destroyers, artillery, light, medium and heavy tanks. Fight using your own tactics, rushing, ambushing or sniping your opponents across different terrains, such as open fields, steep hills, forests, deserts or urban centres. Feel like a real tank commander in an armoured thunder run in historically accurate models and vehicle characteristics, earning experience to modify and upgrade your tank. Join the 100 million global players by downloading World of Tanks using the link in the description. New players use the invite code COMBAT to get 7 free days of premium access, 250,000 credits, the Premium Tank Cromwell B, and 3 rental tanks for 10 battles each, the Tiger 131, T-78 and Type 64. If you're a returning player and have an account but haven't played World of Tanks in more than 30 days, you'll get 3 days of premium access, the 2D style bargain camouflage, 7-day rental of the Premium Tank Centurion Mk 5/1 RAAC, or 100,000 credit compensation if you already have this tank in your garage. The air war in Vietnam is not going well for the United States. Beginning in March of 1965, the US Air Force and US Navy have been attacking North Vietnamese war infrastructure as part of Operation Rolling Thunder. However, the aerial campaign has suffered from faulty planning and the North Vietnamese defences have proven more deadly than expected. The US Air Force and Navy took heavy losses in failed attacks on Dragon's Jaw Bridge in early April of 1965, and in June 1966 alone, North Vietnamese anti-aircraft defences shot down 43 American aircraft. To make matters worse, United States military planners severely underestimated the effectiveness of the small Vietnam People's Air Force, or VPAF. Following the first VPAF kills in the attack on the Dragon's Jaw, this problem has only got worse. In the first 10 months of 1966, North Vietnamese MiGs have forced 77 American strike aircraft to jettison their munitions before reaching their targets. A further 9 US aircraft have been shot down in air-to-air combat versus 24 MiGs. For the Americans, a lackluster kill ratio of only 2.6 to 1. The fast and agile MiG-21 proves to be the biggest threat to Rolling Thunder strike packages. North Vietnamese MiG-21s execute hit-and-run attacks which are taking a heavy toll on American strike aircraft, especially the F-105 Thunderchiefs. To counter the MiG-21 threat, Colonel Robin Olds, the 8th Fighter Wing's flamboyant commander, has come up with a daring plan. Colonel Olds is one of the most influential pilots in the United States military, having earned double ace status in the skies above Europe during the Second World War. His outspoken manner earned him many enemies in the Air Force, but his superiors recognise that his unorthodox and aggressive tactics are exactly what the underperforming 8th Fighter Wing needs. Upon taking command of the Wolfpack in the summer of '66, Olds and his wing tactics officer, Captain John Stone, get to work tackling the MiG problem. The MiGs will need to be destroyed in aerial combat due to North Vietnamese airfields being off-limits to Rolling Thunder bombing raids. By winter, they have come up with an idea that will evolve into Operation Bolo. Named for a Filipino machete which can look deceptively harmless to enemies until it is too late, Operation Bolo is an unconventional plan. In essence, the 28 Phantoms of the 8th Fighter Wing will disguise themselves as F-105s on their way to bomb targets near the North Vietnamese capital of Hanoi. This West Force will overfly VPAF airfields to bait the MiG-21s into the air, where they can be destroyed. Meanwhile, an East Force of 28 Phantoms from the 366th Tactical Fighter Wing, flying out of Da Nang Air Base, will cut off their escape route to China. To get the enemy to commit, the West Force Phantoms are outfitted with QRC-160 jamming pods, usually only carried by F-105s. These jamming pods protect the Thunderchiefs from enemy surface-to-air missiles, but North Vietnamese radar could recognise the electronic signature emitted by the pods. Outfitting the Phantoms with the jamming pods will hopefully bait the enemy into attacking what they think will be the slower, heavier Thunderchiefs, rather than the US Air Force's premier fighter. On the morning of the 2nd of January, 24 F-105 Thunderchiefs, escorted by 16 F-104 starfighters, strike North Vietnamese SAM sites near the airfields in order to clear the way for the Phantoms. By 3 PM, the Olds flight, led by Colonel Olds himself, has arrived above the Phuc Yen airfield just north of Hanoi. Olds calls out "Green up" on the radio, usually the code for F-105s to arm their bombs in the hope that enemy radio operators are listening in. However, they find the area devoid of enemy aircraft and the airfield obscured by heavy clouds. Knowing they might only get one shot to make this deception work, Olds orders his flight to circle at 18,000 feet. The later flights have been timed to arrive above the airfield 5 minutes apart to allow the flight before to engage at will with their missiles. Yet, just as Ford flight is about to arrive, a Phantom callsign Olds 03 detects a MiG-21 17 miles away, closing fast from 12 o'clock. Just as the flight is about to engage, the MiG dives underneath the Phantoms and back into the dense cloud layer. Seconds later, 3 MiG-21s appear climbing through the clouds. The North Vietnamese interceptors appear almost at random, with one popping up behind Olds' flight and the other 2 ahead of the Phantoms. The enemy has taken the bait and the fight is on. Colonel Olds leads the formation in a hard turn to port to manoeuvre for a favourable firing position. The Phantoms drop their fuel tanks and prepare for the dogfight. The American pilots must destroy the enemy aircraft with their missiles, because the F-4C Phantom does not have guns. Olds lines up on a MiG to his 12 o'clock and fires 2 AIM-7E Sparrows from minimum range, but neither guides onto the target. He then launches 2 AIM-9 Sidewinders, but again the missiles fail to track. This continues a pattern of American air-to-air missiles acting unreliably in the tropical climate of Southeast Asia. The MiG-21 to the rear of the flight opens fire on Olds 03 with its cannons, but misses. Olds 02, piloted by First Lieutenant Ralph Hetterhahn, launches 2 Sparrows at the MiG in front. The first simply falls off the rail and doesn't ignite, but the second achieves lock and smashes into the MiG's tail, sending it into an irrevocable flat spin. There is no time to celebrate as the MiG-21 behind the flight continues to fire with its cannons. "Break left, we've got one at 6, shouts Hetterhahn, and 3 of the Phantoms turn sharply to the left, causing the MiG to overshoot the formation. Olds 04, piloted by Captain Walter Radiker, does not break and fires off a Sidewinder that blows the enemy aircraft out of the sky. Another MiG climbs through the clouds directly in front of Colonel Olds. Eager to finally get a kill in his first dogfight with a jet fighter, he launches 2 more Sidewinders. One rockets past the enemy aircraft without exploding, but the other scores a direct hit and sends the flaming MiG tumbling out of the sky. The first engagement has lasted less than 2 minutes when Ford flight arrives in the area. Olds' flight begins to withdraw from the area due to low fuel, just as 2 more MiG-21s move to attack the 4 Phantoms of Ford flight. They assume almost the same attack formation as the previous group of VPAF aircraft, one to the rear and one to the front. Flight Commander Colonel Daniel James Jr. hesitates in engaging the enemy interceptors to avoid hitting Olds' flight, which is retreating beneath them. James leads the formation in a left turn, followed by a hard right turn to shake the MiG-21 behind them. He orders Ford 03 and Ford 04 to break right, but finds himself right next to a third MiG, which has appeared from the clouds. He later recalls, "We were so close that, besides the red stars in the wings, I could clearly see the pilot's face." James executes a roll to place himself behind the MiG-21 and fires a Sidewinder, but the MiG evades it with a hard left turn. However, the North Vietnamese pilot has put himself directly in front of Captain Everett Raspberry in Ford 02. Colonel James fires another 2 Sidewinders which both miss, but Raspberry splashes the MiG with a Sidewinder of his own. The last 2 MiGs flee back into the clouds, just as Forward Flight is relieved by Rambler Flight. The Americans have so far shot down 4 for no loss. Led by Captain John Stone, a co-architect of Operation Bolo, Rambler Flight arrives and Stone immediately spots a pair of MiGs popping up from the clouds below. He leads the Phantoms in a dive and tries to fire a Sparrow, but the missile frustratingly fails to ignite. However, Stone persists and fires a second Sparrow which successfully tracks and destroys a MiG. 2 more MiG-21s are spotted behind the first pair and cross directly in front of the Phantoms. Major Philip Combes follows them to the left and fires 2 Sparrows. One fails to ignite while the other fires and tracks, exploding amongst a MiG's tail. It explodes in mid-air, while First Lieutenant Lawrence Glynn launches a Sparrow of his own at another MiG, swatting the enemy aircraft out of the sky. However, North Vietnamese ground-based air defences now fire 5 SA-2 SAMs at the aircraft of Rambler Flight, forcing them to retire. The last 4 flights of Phantoms arrive on station as scheduled, but no more enemy aircraft are spotted. The dogfight has lasted just 12 minutes. The 8th Fighter Wing's Phantoms have shot down 7 MiG-21s, almost half of the VPAF's current fleet of 16. The Americans have suffered no losses. Upon landing back at Ubon Air Base, the pilots hold up their fingers to indicate how many enemy aircraft they've shot down. Operation Bolo is a massive success, and the same strategy will be replicated by the 555th Tactical Fighter Squadron 3 days later. 2 more MiG-21s are shot down for no loss, forcing the North Vietnamese to ground their entire interceptor fleet for 4 months while they retrain their pilots in new tactics. Colonel Robin Olds will end the war with 4 kills, having purposefully avoided becoming an ace in order to remain in combat. His bold new tactics have injected life back into the American war effort, as the US Air Force kills 15 enemy aircraft in January of 1967 for the loss of only 1 in return. Thanks to this week's sponsor World of Tanks. Join 100 million players online by using my link in the description to download and enjoy the game today. Thanks again to our amazing patrons, without which we wouldn't be able to produce videos like this. Welcome to all our new patrons this month, and a special thanks to our patron of the week, Darth Rust. Each week we choose our favourite Patreon comments to shout out. This week, Mark Paz says, "Amazing controlled chaos with so little time. I would imagine for the pilots it seemed an eternity." If you'd like to support us, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/The Operations Room and get access to exclusive benefits such as early access to videos ad and sponsor free. We would love to have you as part of our community and really appreciate your support.